Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for our session. So really glad to have you here with us for this Treasury Lab session. I'm Mickaël Thomas. I'm responsible for the corporates in Middle East, Turkey, and Africa. And I have with me my colleague, Sabrina Fromager, who is Adoption Manager on GPI for Corporates. So we'll start with a quick agenda of the session of today's session. So first, I will present and refresh your minds on what is Swift for Corporates and the added value on joining Swift and the value that joining Swift can bring to the corporates. Then Sabrina will have the chance to present one of the most innovative solutions at Swift, which is GPI. I know you've already heard a lot on GPI, but we still continue to innovate on the topic, providing with new services for the financial institutions and the corporates. Before leaving the floor to Sabrina, just a reminder on who we are. So Swift is a member-owned, not-for-profit cooperative, so meaning that we are not a commercial company. We have been created by the banks to serve the financial community by providing a highly secure network. We are connecting today more than 12,000 financial institutions, corporates, market, infrastructure, asset manager, brokers, and many different types of entities operating within the financial community. And this in more than 200 countries and territories. So corporates can have access to the network to communicate with their banks for more than 20 years. And adoption is really picking up in the last 10 years. So in our region, we have now more than 160 corporates connected. And this year only, we already have 30 new corporates joining in 2021 in the region, more than 200 globally. So the trend is still really good in terms of adoption. So what's in it for you? Sabrina, I might need the next slide. Sorry about this. If you can. Yeah, what's in it for you? So what is Swift for Corporates and how Swift helps corporate. So before detailing the portfolio, I will focus first on the core solution of Swift, which is the bank connectivity. Yeah, we have it works. So to communicate with your banks, you have to put in place multiple communication channels. So these are windows open on the outside, so for which you need to maintain security and processes for each of them to mitigate the associated risks. So questions you may ask yourself once you consider to rationalize the way you communicate with your banks can also be these ones. I will need the next one. Yeah, it's slower when we are live actually. So so in total, how many channels do I use to communicate with my banks? Is it efficient and secure, sustainable in the long term? Which channels I would use with a new banking partner. Is a one bank strategy secure and flexible enough or the right alternative? This bank actually being down, you're down with all your banks. So by setting up Swift, so you will limit the number of channels to communicate with your banks, having one single communication gateway for all of them. So instead of using multiple host-to-host, web portals, emails, phone, fax, name it. So you will have only one single channel to reach all your bank and for all your businesses. So advantages here is for example, to increase the security by limiting the number of channels to monitor and to secure, to limit the risk of fraud errors by only have one single and common process to communicate with your banks. One process to document, not many tokens, no passwords to handle. So you will also limit the implementation costs with only one single implementation in one system. So you don't need to start a new project once you want to add a new bank, as the channel is already there and ready for good. So bringing also flexibility in regards to bank relationships. It's easier to add a new bank. It's easier also to stop communicating with a bank without having to dismantle the whole Swift IT infrastructure. So this makes Swift a bank and vendor agnostic channel because as we work with and partner with all of them, even if project could be easier with some of them, we are working and we are available with all kind of vendors and banks. Here are some examples of business areas that you can use on Swift. You should also note that you can use any kind of format. Here you have some examples. It's also examples of some business areas that you can use on Swift. In general, you will start with the cash management to see the cash at banks by collecting the bank statements. Then with this information available in your ERP or your treasury management system, you will extend the usage to payments to pay your employees, suppliers, doing intercompany payments by moving the cash from a bank account to another one. And you can be creative with your banking partners in terms of business areas. There's limit, because here you have only examples, as I mentioned, as you agree in bilateral with your banks on what you want to exchange with them, and Swift is there to facilitate and secure the communication between the two parties. To sum up here, so Swift helps to digitally transform corporate treasury and finance operations to improve the cash visibility and optimize the working capital. Secure the end-to-end payments, also to reduce the operational risk. Onboard new banking partners seamlessly as your business expands, as you're creating new subsidiaries or new entities. All this through a single secure gateway with a unique Swift code. So back to the Swift for Corporate portfolio. So banking connectivity is the core added value of Swift here, but beyond the connectivity, we are serving the community by providing a lot of solutions, and for some of them, even available for the non-connected institutions. Solutions are related to identity management and multi-factor authentications with 3SKey, bank onboarding, standard and reference data management with MyStandard Translator or the SwiftRef portfolio. And beyond the connectivity as a Swift user, you will benefit at no cost sometimes of services available only for connected users at this stage. I can name here KYC for corporate and Swift GPI for corporates. So there are much more to say about explaining all the benefits of joining Swift, and for that, feel free to get in touch with me directly or here in the chat box during the ACT events, or directly via email or via LinkedIn. But today we have decided to focus on GPI for corporate again. As we can announce now that the solution is available for free for all the connected corporates as of today. So this being said, I guess now the floor is yours, Sabrina.
Yeah, thank you, Mickaël. Can you hear me well?
Yes, I do.
Good. Indeed. So hello, everyone, and thank you for joining this session. But of course, before I jump into GPI for corporate, let's get back to the beginning of the story and introduce to you Swift GPI for banks, of course, because everything started here. So let me just start with this slide. So as you may know, Swift GPI is now live since many years. And of course, we introduced a new technology for payment processes, and we helped the industry to address the challenges of cross-border payments. So for many years now, we heard before GPI, of course, that correspondent banking is a complex area. Cross-border payments were taking multiple days to be delivered to beneficiaries, and customers were facing lack of traceability and transparency. So as a corporate customers, how many requests did you send to your bank to know where a payment is, for example, or to investigate about a non-receipt on the beneficiary side? And of course, how many copies of MT103s, the famous MT103s, did you ask to your bank because the beneficiary was claiming the proof of execution to make sure that you have sent the payments? So we all know that traceability is making easy the discussion with suppliers. Imagine having your supplier on the phone and being able to tell him in real time that the payment already arrived to his bank, and even better, to confirm that the payment has been credited on its account. So this is the same topic for the transparency issue. Many situations were facing as well customers when beneficiaries was claiming non-receipt. because of course they didn't see the payments on their account. But it was not because the payment has not been credited, but it was because there has been converted in the SWIFT during the payment execution. So the FX is also something very difficult to handle, and the FX risk is also a sensitive topic for Treasury. So if you can see in real time that the payment in the chain has been converted, for example, you can react faster and contact your bank to intervene before the payment lands to the beneficiary account. So before SWIFT GPI, banks were sending manual messages to the different banks of the chain, and this process used to take multiple days and sometimes even weeks in some region. But since SWIFT GPI, banks are exchanging messages with the tracker, and they can get in real time statuses of payments. They can get the deducts, which has been taken by the intermediary banks. And of course, the FX rate is something that is shared by the GPI banks. So if a payment has been converted, then the beneficiary bank can see which bank has converted the payment and which was the rate applied. So the GPI tracker is the master element of this new way of paying. There is another enhancement, which is more about helping corporates to increase STP reconciliation, straight-through processes reconciliation, and of course to accelerate the process as part of their back offices. So this is about the remittance information, and I'm sure that you all know what the remittance information is, or it's the purpose of payments. As you may notice, this is why are you sending this payment to the beneficiary. So as an ordering party, the corporate is including in the payment instruction useful information like the invoice number or the purpose of payments, which could be mandatory in some countries, by the way. And the problem that the customers were facing is that the remittance information was altered by the different banks in the chain. And when the alteration has been done and the payment lands to the beneficiary, is get just a small part of all the information that you wanted to share with them. So of course, it will take some days, sometimes, to the supplier to identify for which invoice this payment has been sent. In a SWIFT GPI world, the remittance information must be delivered unaltered to the beneficiary by the GPI banks. This is part of the SLA, Service Level Agreement, the rules of GPI. So of course, it's a huge enhancement for customers, for end users, I would say. So beneficiaries now can get full and richer data to improve settlement and reconciliation processes. So in a nutshell, SWIFT GPI has transformed the cross-border payment service that banks can offer to its customers. Now, corporates can make high-speed payments, international payments, of course, but sometimes local market infrastructure are also using GPI. Those payments are settled in minutes. We're going to see in a sec some statistics to see that. And they can, of course, track their payments in real time and receive confirmation when the payment has been credited and get full transparency on the deducts and the fees involved if it happens. So before I jump into the GPI for corporates, which is the session of today, I just wanted to show you some statistics about SWIFT GPI. So if we look at, oh, it takes some delay. Okay, I hope it's fine. So if you look at the statistics here, it's we can see it's showing clearly that GPI payments are very fast. We used to hear that payments took days to lend to the beneficiary. But now with the tracker and with a tool called Observer, we can track and make some analysis on the traffic on SWIFT network. And this is why we can deliver this kind of a diagram where we see that 40% of GPI payments are credited within 5 minutes, which is huge. It's almost half of all the traffic, all the volumes of all the banks. And 55% in less than an hour, and almost 100 within a day, 95%, it's quite huge. So in conclusion, we can really say that GPI payments are very fast, and it's something that it would have been impossible to say before we launched the initiative a few years ago. So this was about GPI. So now let's jump into the topic, which will be very interesting for you today. It's GPI for Corporate Initiative. I'm pretty sure that some of you might heard about it before, but let's make a quick recap and maybe provide you with some updates as well, because we have been improving the solution since the launch. But first of all, when you are working with a GPI bank, of course, you have different kind of service that this bank can deliver to you. Okay, so the first level of service is the customer support of these banks getting access to the tracker, the GPI tracker, and providing you in real-time information when you call this customer support or when you send an email to this customer support. Of course, it doesn't allow end-to-end tracking in full autonomy on your side, but still, it's an improvement to get faster answer to your claims. Second level of service that the bank can deliver, it's the visibility of tracking and tracking your payments via the e-banking portals. This is how GPI banks are also helping customers to get real-time tracking information about the payment they send or they receive. I'm going to see that in a minute. Of course, again, this is not very efficient because you might need to get multiple portals if you have multiple banks. So the last way to get all this information, it's fully automated and integrated in your TMS system, It's Swift GPI for corporates. So what is it? It's how your bank will send you specific notification reporting, payment status report, for example, to provide you with some information about statuses, fees, and a lot of information that are part of the GPI for corporate notification. And you will automatically integrate this into your TMS and ERP system and get full view on all the payments you have sent, whatever the bank. So this is really the premium service to track and trace your payment. Because of course, we know that you are working with multiple banking, big customers, big corporates are really sending and having complex traffic, I would say, working with many regions. So this service really serve the corporate and make the life easy, reconciliation, tracking, and business, of course. So now if we get focused on this solution, GPI for corporate, we call it G4C to make it simple, but this is a payment tracking solution, as I said, okay? So the first capability of the portfolio is pay and trace, okay? So pay and trace is live since 2019 and has been launched after a successful pilot with banks and corporates. So we designed the service with banks and corporates, and the pay and trace is delivering the capability to track your payments sent via your bank. So it's the tracking of the outgoing payments. So you send an instruction to your bank and your bank receives specific notification from the tracker and will relay it to you in real time. So you can automatically consult a specific payment if needed or reconcile a global collection payments or payments you have sent into the network. The second capability of the portfolio is inbound tracking. So inbound tracking, it's live since October 2020. So it's the latest feature that we had delivered. And this provides corporate visibility on the incoming payments and leverage insight such as proof of execution, short-term forecasting, real-time confirmation of credit. And it provides you this information as soon as the payment has been sent on Swift Network. This is really, really important. So the beneficiary bank, again, will receive specific notifications reporting from the tracker, informing that the payment is coming for one of its customers, you, and this bank will relay to you those reporting to inform you that the payment is in flight. So here, to better understand, you will know in advance that a payment is coming to you, even before it has lent to your bank. So it's very powerful for liquidity management purpose, for example, or forecasting. So now if we see on the right hand of the slide, the value proposition of G4C, GPI for corporates. First of all, it's a bank agnostic approach. Of course, you can centralize every kind of information that you have with all your banks in one single tool, which will be your TMS system. So here again, no need to get connected to each web portal. Just be connected via Swift to your bank, and your bank would deliver specific notification that will be integrated, and you can have a full visibility with all your banks of your cash and liquidity. Second value proposition of the service, it's standardization. This is something that we heard a lot coming from corporates. Can you please standardize as most as you can flows, traffic between corporates and banks to make easy integration, implementation, testing? This is what we did with G4C. We provide a common rulebook to every kind of participants, bank and corporate, and of course vendors. And all those participants must implement the rules that has been described in the rulebook. So this is really important that you understand that when you do a first implementation with a G4C bank, the next one will be very easy. It's just like a plug and play, but almost. Third value proposition is the multi-format approach. Of course, in the community of corporates and banks, we hear different needs. Some customers are willing to use API. In some region, it's it's something really normal, the usage of API. Some others will use FIN, of course, via SwiftNet FIN, for example. You can use MT199. But others would like to use ISO messages because it's rich information, rich specification, rich format. So definitely here, G4C is providing technical specification in multiple formats. So your bank can deliver it to you via API, FIN, or ISO. We make everything available for them to serve you the way you like. And the last but not least, of course, it's the automation in the TMS or the ERP. As I said, it's a seamless integration and deployment with all your banks because they are using the standard, which make easier the way that your vendor will implement the solution with you. So this is really how G4C is working, what it brings, and how you can get the benefit with your banks. I just wanted to show you, but here very fast, I'm not going to spend too many time on a diagram because I'm sure that it's not something that you like to see, but just to make it clear, G4C is enabled via multiple format and channel, sorry. Talk to your banks, see what kind of offering they can provide. And depending on the way you used to work with them, you can definitely get G4C as well implemented because of what I've just said before, the specification provided on our website, on Swift Developer Portal, for example, but everything is ready for your bank to serve you in the format and channel you are looking for. Very important. So now how to get started on G4C. So the onboarding journey for corporates is now very simple. As Mickaël said before, GPR for corporate activation is free of charge for Swift connected corporate. They just need to activate the service on swift.com and then they can get the service with their banks. Of course, you need to activate as well the service with your bank, but let's see the step by step. First step, very important one, I would say maybe the most important one, it's to identify your G4C partners. You need to talk to your partner, you need to talk to your bank to see what channel they are live with, in which country, for which currency. So there is a lot of questions to ask to your bank and to your providers to see when you will get G4C available and implemented. Second step, I would say, it's the onboarding project. So for the onboarding, of course, the first is to activate the service on swift.com. So it's an e-form to complete. Maybe the connected corporate used to do it, but of course we can support you if you join Swift to do so. But it's really simple. It's on the website. It's digitalized. No need for documentation on G4C. You just need to agree the terms and conditions to comply with the rulebook, and then you can activate the service on Swift.com. And of course, your BIC will be added in the group. Third step is to implement and test. So here you have two choices as a corporate. You can choose to onboard with Swift. So of course we have onboarding packages available for you. Or you can decide to jump into the project directly with your bank and your vendor and test with them. So some banks, some G4C banks really used to onboard customers. So they don't need to have Swift involved. And it's fine. If you don't need Swift to be involved, you can move directly with your bank and vendors and implement and test, of course. And last but not least, it's how to get started real live flow in the network. So there it's about making an agreement with your bank, probably sometimes signing a new amendment of your Swift contract if needed, and just activate the service of the bank to activate live traffic on the network. And when you have done this last step, for Pay and Trace, you can generate payments with your reference and receive notifications. And for inbound tracking, you would start receiving inbound notifications to track incoming flows. So a really easy to onboard, I would say. Don't hesitate to talk to your banks and vendors and to see how you can get started and receive and track your payments. So maybe for the banks, I will leave you bilateral discussion, leave you to have those kind of discussion with the banks. Even if we have a tool for the members where you can see the full list of banks ready on G4C. But for that, you need to be part of the GPI for Corporate closed user group. But just for you to know that this list that exists, but it's available for members. But for the vendors, I wanted to share with you something which is important because, of course, you might also need to talk with the vendors. And for that, we have created last year a label dedicated to the application providers. Why did we do that? It's because when we have launched G4C, many vendors were telling in the community that they were ready for that. But some corporates were coming back to us and saying, but it's not really G4C. Seems like it's more GPI. But GPI, it's customized for banks. And the status that you will receive for GPI are very different from the one for G4C, first. And second, it's, of course, GPI notification are not that richer than G4C notification, the one we have built. So definitely here, there is a huge difference between GPI and G4C. So with this label, we assess the way providers will relay this information, will integrate the information, the G4C notification for you. So of course, they will integrate it automatically. This label will provide trust and credibility on their own implementation. Of course, the guarantee quality compliance with the rule book. We really assess the technical aspects, so they do testing to make sure that they are complying with the rules. And of course, for you, it's a way to see which vendor is fully labeled. So it doesn't mean that the other vendors which are not here in the page are not G4C enabled. It just means that those ones have passed technical tests, functional demo. So we have seen their interface and really looking how you as a treasurer, you will get this information visual. And of course, the others can provide the service, but it's just that we don't guarantee the quality of this implementation. So the full list is on Swift.com. For the vendors, you can get access to it. And you will have also for the labeled one, the full label one, which have already one live corporate, because you have two levels for the label. The live one get a profile sheet when you can open and see what capabilities they are live with, in which format, for example, and so on and so forth. So it can be very useful for you before you start discussing with your provider to go on this page and see if you get what you need. And of course, further discussion might appear with your provider, your partner. So I think this is it for G4C. Maybe last, it's a slide showing some names that we have already on the service. Of course, we couldn't put all the logos here. So as you can imagine, it's just a selection of customers. We have selected ones in the region, of course, to help you understand what kind of customers already joined, already using it, what banks. Even if I can already tell you that we can see almost every day or every week, at least, new customers signing and activating the service. So we have now more than 120 customers subscribing. live BICS 400, but it's increasing almost every month. And for the label vendor, I've just talked about it. So I think that you know everything, or I hope that it was clear. So you see many banks. I don't know, Mickaël, if you want to comment the adoption for the region.
The adoption in the region, it's starting, especially in the Turkey. As you know, you see a lot of logos here in Turkey, because it's really a real big move in Turkey, with all the communities moving in, adopting GPI for corporate. So I'm confident that it will be the same for the rest of the regions. We had a question, by the way, on the chat about the GPI banks in UAE. So there's difference, as Sabrina mentioned. So the GPI bank and the GP4C banks. So G4C being the next step, let's say, for these banks. So the list is available on Swift.com. So that's why we can't mention all of them, but you see the logo of Mashrek. So apart from the international banks, Mashrek is today the only local bank live on G4C. After, if you want the list, just you can reach out to us, and we will share the link, as well as with the vendors. So you have some names here, so it doesn't mean that with the other one it's not possible, and we can also help to facilitate the integration for the other vendors. So that's after, you can just reach out to us, and we'll help you with that. So yeah, I think it's maybe it's time to conclude the sessions. Many thanks for being with us today, and I trust this session was interesting and valuable for all of yours. So if you have any question, as mentioned, and remarks, if you want to join Swift, if you want information about GPI, or if you have questions, if you're a vendor and you want to be also compliant, just reach out to us, to me directly, to Sabrina also if you want, but I'm here in the region. LinkedIn, email, platform, event platform, so we are available on any channel. Hopefully next year we will be able to meet you in person, as we used to do. And now it's time to wish you all a lovely day, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sabrina.
Bye-bye.